Hello everybody, welcome to another video. I've decided to do a video on 5 films that I think you should see. So we start, the first of the 5, with Elephant. It was directed by Gus Van Sant. He brought us My Own Private Idaho, Drugstore Cowboy, and of course the Oscar-winning film Good Will Hunting. Here's the Blu-ray of Elephant. He was inspired to make this 2003 film from the BBC television play by Alan Clark called Elephant. The producer on that film was actually Danny Boyle, none other than. He worked on television before he moved on to film. The play Elephant was set during the Northern Ireland Troubles, made in 1989. It looked at 12 different murders from unusual perspectives. There was a lot of sectarian tit-for-tat killings around that time. Now, in Elephant from 2003, Gus Van Sant looks at the murder of high school students. But the interesting thing is the way that the film plays out. The camera actually follows the students as they go about their day-to-day business. It's clearly a steady cam, but it doesn't stick with individual students. It veers off, introducing someone else, and then picks up that student later down the line in another part of the school. On the soundtrack, you sometimes hear what clearly is muffled gunshots, and you sort of know what's taking place at that moment. But the film experiments with narrative flow. There's absolutely no narration, no music, just the camera following characters in a voyeuristic manner, showing the events unfolding from different angles and always from the point of view of you, the viewer, looking in on the action. The assassinators are also featured throughout the film, but again, they're not strictly featured in chronological order, from the order of the day, I mean, according to their perspective. This is a very, very interesting film. It did very well at the Cannes Film Festival as well, and in fact it got the Palme d'Or, the top award. So that's Elephant. It's an Optimum Blu-ray release. Thoroughly recommend it. Now, I am a big sci-fi fan, and this still remains a firm sci-fi favourite of mine. It's an Arrow release, and it's written by Michael Crichton and directed by Robert Wise. I'm sorry if the light's not catching, there we are. And now, Crichton also wrote the novel Jurassic Park long before it was made into a successful film by Spielberg. Robert Wise is also famous as a director for West Side Story and of course Star Trek the motion picture. Now, close comparisons for this can be definitely made to COVID. Citizens in a remote US town are all dying mysteriously, and the town is quarantined to prevent a spread. A crack of investigative scientists are called together in a remote high security underground laboratory facility to analyse what's been found and brought back. Now, this is a perfect atmosphere for tension to build slowly. They cannot find a connection between 2 surviving human patients, an old man and a young baby. There is pressure from the military as well from outside, because they want to drop a bomb and eradicate the virus. Things just get worse as the virus mutates, just like coronavirus does. So the stakes keep increasing. Now, this film's a bit dated now because it's from the 70s, but the direction very, very tight by Robert Wise. And as I say, tension's ramped up to fever pitch in this movie as each level of this secure facility is one by one compromised. It doesn't have a big Hollywood A-lister starring in this, but it didn't need it, to be honest. The Andromeda strain is on Arrow, and it's got a lot of interesting special features as well, and it's a new restoration of the film. It's been out for quite a few years, but I do recommend it. This is a little hidden gem from a director called Fruit Chan. The Blu-ray came out as a restoration from the 4K original negative in 2019. It's on the Eureka Masters of Cinema label and tells the story of a young man who finds 2 letters from a girl who had recently committed suicide, and he sets out to discover more about her with his girlfriend. Now, he gets in much too deep with a local triad gang, and he also struggles with the responsibility of protecting his friend who has a learning disability but is often bullied by local boys from the area. It was produced on a low budget with non-professional actors, and it used stock footage, but thankfully the film was rescued and restored in 4K in 2017 for the Udine Far East Film Festival. It certainly shows the passion of this young filmmaker called Fruit Chan and the dedication of his actors in telling a compelling and emotional story. I was really quite taken with this when I watched it. It shows youthful despair and urban alienation with a strong central performance from an actor called Sam Lee as the youth Mid-Autumn. That's made in Hong Kong from 1997 on Eureka. And the film, of course, has English subtitles. Now, the next film is called Ghost Hunting. It's directed by Raed Adoni, and it's a brave project. It's a documentary. He reconstructed an interrogation area during a recent conflict, and with the voluntary contributions of both the interrogators and the former victims, he simulates the interrogation sessions. It's all reenacted for the camera, but it really does feel real. And he revealed in the brilliant documentary on the disc, one interrogator played his role so convincingly that the victim felt like he was really there and it was really happening to him all over again. And it's really quite strong watch. Very powerful moment there in the documentary. So you're an observer. It's very powerfully immediate as a film. The men involved were very brave to do this, as it would have brought back very painful memories for them of a situation that, quite frankly, they would really have felt there was no escape from at the time. The director recreates the interrogation rooms in great detail, as the original site unfortunately had been demolished. Now, it's an original film on second run. It's not a pleasant watch, but I do recommend you watch the documentary immediately afterwards because it puts it fully into perspective. And again, it's got English subtitles. That's Ghost Hunting, another recommendation. You may have come across this one before. It's a really low budget film made by Shane Carruth and his friends called Primer. And to some extent, his immediate family were involved in it as well. His mother did the catering, for instance. He didn't realise the potential it could have when it debuted at the Sundance Film Festival. It tackles time and moving about within time. And for me, it's the most interesting and credible time travel film I have ever seen to date. There is no CGI. There's no orchestral score booming over things. It has a very documentary feel, and Carruth even doing the voiceover himself, but it messes with your brain. You have to pay close attention to what's going on, as it's very complex. I've watched YouTube videos explaining the time travel elements of this plot, and I still struggle with it. The basic premise is 2 guys construct a sort of makeshift machine which can send objects through time, but the science itself is very plausible. I don't confess to be an expert on this sort of thing. I'm not a physicist, but the way the narrative unfolds, it leaves you baffled and confused with questions you're asking, but you're not getting any answers. Now, up to this year, the film was only available on DVD, but Arrow released it this year on Blu-ray, coupled with his second movie release called Upstream Colour. It's not a sequel to Primer, by the way, but it's quite original in its own way. There's also an interesting commentary from the director where, as a filmmaker, he talks about the way he was forced to make the film, shooting through opportunity and necessity with inexpensive lighting, cheap props, and always working against the clock and using cheap equipment to get shots in the bag. It's been hailed as a critical and a modern masterpiece. So check out Primer, I'm sure you'll love it. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on all 5 of the films that I've talked about. So that's it for this video. Hopefully I'll see you again soon. In the meantime, keep watching those movies and above all, stay safe.